Hi everyone, and welcome back to Decisive Squirrel Homestead. I am filming this on May 31st, so we're going to do a wrap-up of what we harvested and what we preserved in the month of May. So we are down here in Texas where it's already getting really hot. We're up in the 90s every day. We also had another weather event where we had a whole bunch of rain over a period of about 2 weeks. So that has wreaked some havoc on the garden. We've had issues with diseases on the plants from all of the water. So we've had some blight on the tomatoes, powdery mildew on the squash, and rust on the beans. Part of that is because we planted so close together. We knew that was going to be an issue. We made the choice to do it anyway, but we have had to come in here and cut leaves off of these tomatoes that had blight. So you can tell the plants are looking a little bit sparse down here at the bottoms where they're mostly just stems now. But they still have plenty of leaves up here at the top to do photosynthesis, and they are making plenty of tomatoes. Overall, they're really happy. We still don't really have any pest issues, except I'm starting to see stink bugs come up. Stink bugs will poke a hole in the tomato and suck the juice out. So you can't actually see damage on the tomato right when they do it, but when it ripens, you'll see speckles on it, and if you try to peel the tomato, it doesn't peel very nicely, and the flesh will get a little bit more mealy. So we're having a little bit of issue with that, but nothing major. Down here on the corn and squash bed, I have taken out most of the squash now. It was pretty much overrun with powdery mildew. You can see this pumpkin plant here is pretty diseased. I do want to take this out, but we have a couple of pumpkins that will be ready really soon. So I'm letting those finish up, and then I'll pull this plant out. I do have some squash left where I went in and cut all of the leaves off the base of the stem. So you can see that one, the original stem, I've cut all the leaves off that were diseased. And then the ones down here at the end do have some disease, but not terrible. So they're still making a few more squash, and I'm putting more seed in the ground today. We can plant squash throughout the summer here. We have a pumpkin that's almost done. It just has a little bit of green on it. Our corn is doing really well. It's put out tassels at the top, and we are starting to get ears down here. So that's exciting. Hopefully they make and the critters don't get them, and we get some corn out of that. Back over here in the main part of the garden, the melons are really taking off. We have some baby watermelons and baby cantaloupes. Brussels sprouts are hanging in there, surprisingly. I thought they would be dead by now, but they're not, and they are kind of making sprouts. I'm still not convinced we're going to get them. Over here on the beans, we pulled out all of our provider and wax bean plants. We had gotten several pounds off of them, and they were crowding our black-eyed peas back there on the other side, and I wanted the black-eyed peas to have space to grow. Our Kentucky Wonder Beans are pretty diseased, so we came through yesterday and cut off a bunch of leaves that had rust on them. That's a fungal disease. So they're looking sparse down here at the bottom. Up here at the top, we have lots and lots of leaves. They're pretty diseased, and I'd really rather these plants come out, but I'm not sure if you can see how many beans are hanging off of these. So I'm waiting to get one last really good harvest of beans, and then we'll pull these plants out. Cucumbers have come over from the other side, and there are some cucumbers in with the beans now. Cucumber plants are also looking pretty rough. They have given us so many pounds of cucumbers, though, that we're about done with them, so we will pull these plants really soon too. I'm not sure if we're going to plant anything else in this area, or if we will take the summer to further prepare this soil. So we're gonna cover up the space in between the beds so we have fewer weed problems, fewer disease problems, and just improve the soil a little bit more. Nothing much happens around here in the summer. It's too hot, so summer may be a good time to do that. On our peppers, they really did not like all the water that we got. You can see the cayennes are actually starting to turn red. That's the first I've seen that. They were still green yesterday. Most of the pepper plants are doing okay. There's pounds of peppers on them, but wherever there were low spots and they got really wet feet, they died off. So, oh well, that's how that goes. Our berry vines over here are really, really happy with their little bit of fertilizer and weed barrier they got. So all of these blackberries have really perked up and put out a bunch of new growth this week. So maybe we can save those after all. This is the best one. It's grown a whole lot, almost a foot since I put down weed barrier. So that one's really happy. So that's about what's going on around here. Already really hot here, too wet here for right now. I'm sure we will be in a drought soon. But for now, everything is too wet, very humid, very hot, but growing pretty well. So we're going to head inside and go through a list of everything that we harvested in the month of May and see what the totals come out to. So since we're at the end of May, it's a good time to do a wrap up and see how much we harvested for the entire month. This only includes things that we harvested in the month of May. So there are some things that we got in April, and it also does not include things that we gave to people when they came to visit. So we had some people bring their kids over to see the garden, or family came to visit, things like that, and we would always send them home with a bag of produce, and we didn't weigh that before we sent it with them. So it's almost everything, but not quite. This is what we actually brought in and used for ourselves. So we got 7 3/4 pounds of zucchini, 11 3/4 pounds of squash, 24 pounds of cucumbers, almost 1.5 pounds of provider beans, 5 3/4 pounds of wax beans, 9.5 pounds of onions, 1 3/4 pounds green cabbage, 1/4 pounds purple cabbage, 2.5 pounds of Kentucky Wonder beans, 1 pound of edamame, 1 pound of Anaheim peppers, 1 pound of jalapeno peppers, 1 ounce of cayenne pepper, 3.5 pounds of green bell pepper. We only weighed 1.5 ounces of carrots. We did pull the rest of our carrots. They didn't do super well, but we forgot to weigh them. It was probably a few pounds. And 106 pounds of tomatoes. That is a grand total of 177.5 pounds of produce that we picked, brought into the house, and either ate or preserved for ourselves. In the past, we had large gardens, and in 2012, we had a goal of growing 125 pounds of food for the entire year and fell just a little bit short of that goal. So 177 pounds in 1 month is much more than we've ever grown in an entire year, even though we really don't have that much more garden space. So we are going to call this a win. Now let's see what all we made with that food. So here is all the food that we have preserved in the month of May. Again, there are some things that we did in April. This is only from May 1st to May 31st. We're actually working on canning some stuff today that's obviously not here yet. Again, we ate plenty of things for meals and we gave plenty away, but this is what we preserved and still have. So we have some freeze-dried ranch green beans. So we freeze-dried green beans and with ranch seasoning on them. Freeze-dried squash that's just plain to use in the future. In the back we have more freeze-dried squash. Freeze-dried green bell peppers. Freeze-dried cucumbers that have been marinated in Olive Garden dressing, so it's kind of like chips. In the back there's canned salsa and then 1 bag of freeze-dried salsa. I learned that powdered salsa is a little bit like pepper spray, so don't breathe too deeply when you're packaging that. We have 10 jars of tomato sauce, 6 jars of ketchup, 4 quarts of bread and butter pickles. I have to do math in my head. This is 5 quarts of sweet dills and another 5 quarts, so 10 quarts of sweet dill pickles, 3.5 pints of curry pickles, 1.5 pints of mustard pickles, 2 half pints of sweet gherkins, 3 pints of dilled green beans. Let's see, 11 pints of just, these are actually wax beans, a mix of wax beans and green beans. We have a few potatoes back there from a couple of plants that had died and needed the potatoes pulled up. Those are not actually in our total for our weights. And then in the back, we have the first bit of honey that we got. There will be more honey coming soon, but this is what we extracted yesterday. So that is a pretty successful May and a pretty successful spring so far. We actually do most of our growing in the spring. When we get into the heat of the summer, things just don't grow around here. So this is probably our busiest time of year. So we are happy with how things have gone, and we are happy about the lessons that we've learned and things that we can do even better next year. Hope y'all are also having a great time with your gardens this year, and we will see y'all later. Bye.